Warning: Superpower review is intended for a mature viewing audience. This video may show images that are not suitable for kids under 13 years old. Viewer discretion is advised.
What's going on, everybody? It's Kevin Medini here for Superpower Review, and on today's video we are giving Venom issue number 29 a review. And as always, when we're giving Venom comic books a review, I am not alone. I'm joined by my good friend Joseph Reed. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
What's up, dude? Thanks again for having me.
Let's get right into it. Let's break down this comic book as we always do, and then at the end of the show, we'll give it a review based off of a CGC grade. It didn't take me long to read this book. I felt like this was a quick one. It was in some ways filler, but important to the origin story of how this universe became what it is today.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's definitely filler type material, for sure, but it did have a little bit of an origin of in and the whole Dylan that universe and what, which was cool. But it's very filler because I think there's one more issue of the storyline. So obviously, all the action's saved for just that issue.
Obviously, we were going to get an origin story at some point about how this world got to be where it is, but I feel like that reading Venom Beyond, we kind of already know how this world got to be.
Like I said, with them explaining the origin with Codex and everything, they still don't explain a lot.
So, Joe, what do you think is the difference between this Earth's Dylan Brock compared to our Dylan Brock?
There's not much of a difference at all, really. There's a lot of similarities of what he was called doing. Like, he did the same thing in Web of Venom, the Good Son. And pretty much Ann saw him, like, doing the little spirals on the walls and whatnot. Yeah. A lot of his powers, like, she was asking Eddie if his Dylan can do what her Dylan can do, and pretty much everything she said is exactly what we've been seeing. So there's a lot of similarities between the two.
When he's drawing all those little red swirls, you know what I mean? That is, that goes back to Null. So I really want to know how much influence Null has on this Earth, if any at all.
It seems like he definitely has some sort of influence on, for sure.
I do have to say there are some heartfelt moments in this issue, you know what I mean? Like, and kind of pushing Eddie away, like, hey, I'm not your wife, and you're not my husband. And, Dylan saying, like, hey, I know you're not my mom, and, that's okay, whatever, you know what I mean? I can deal with that. But then there's a part where Matt Gargan, Scorpion, comes through the walls. As much as I would have loved to seen more of a fight scene here, but it just goes to show you how powerful, yet again, Dylan is.
That whole fight scene, I mean, just good Lord. He literally jumps through the wall, grabs the Eddie pretty much blasts him with the energy, and then he yells for Dylan, like, now! Pretty much does his thing and just disintegrates the symbiote. First off, what is it, Luke Ross, the artist? They pretty much brought him in, which I wasn't exactly aware of at the time that it came out. But the way he drew the Scorpion, it looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
But then they just immediately took him out, so it was all right.
Right. Well, I kind of see why they did that, you know what I mean? Like, because I feel like they're saving a lot of the action, like you said, for the next issue. But yet again, it is really showing how strong Dylan is. How he can just, hey, you have a symbiote? I don't think so. Not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely took him out, no problem. And yeah, he's super powerful to come to think of it, because that doesn't seem like a normal symbiote. That's something that Dylan created, you know what I mean? And he was able just to just obliterate like nothing. So,
right.
I definitely feel like if there is a type of difference between the two Dylans, is Eddie's Dylan more powerful.
More powerful, but yet, could he be persuaded to turn evil like Codex?
That I can totally see, with him being young and, confused and kind of mad at Eddie all the time, and now he meets his supposed real mother, and she's kind of like, you're not my kid. It's all the prime ingredients. Like I said, King starts at some point. Null go directly for like Dylan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I gotcha.
If that happened, I could very easily see him being persuaded.
And then so, this whole issue sets up the next issue, of course, where, they're making a deal with Matt Gargan. Hey, you know who Codex is, you know where he is, and you're going to help us go after him. And again, I feel like that's where going to be most of the action is. And I think you're finally going to see what Codex is able to do. And I hope you get pretty pumped about that.
If they do what they did with Scorpion and Venom in this issue with Venom and Codex next issue, I swear there's going to be an uproar of like, what is going on with the story? Blah blah blah. One thing I'm expecting for sure is if they do, once they get the Codex, it's most likely all the action going to be in there because the issue after that for the Venom solo series is a King in Black tie-in. So they're obviously back on. And that's the thing. King in Black kind of shows you that they're obviously back on. I haven't really seen Dylan in any type of previews when it comes to the King in Black, but Eddie's definitely back on it. Here's my thing, and this is what I'm hoping everything leads to with all of this. So we get this huge fight, obviously the next issue.
Yep. And
amongst this fight, which hopefully lasts more than 2 panels, we have some sort of like family moment, like father-son type moment between Codex and Eddie.
Yes.
And maybe even Dylan too. Maybe they all kind of just like collectively agree, like, hey, we need to team up or something to put an end to this. And this is what I'm hoping. I've said this in the other videos. Codex still has not destroyed the virus armor. So it's just laying on a table somewhere in his lab. And they're dragging Matt Gargan back to this lab. So hopefully in the middle of their little, moment, it just pretty much Matt Gargan right back in the virus suit, just blasts the crap out of Codex and kills him or something.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And then, it just picks it right back. If Matt gets back into the virus suit, I'm going to be pretty happy. Plus, he needs to be able to live and walk and all that. So, you know what I mean? They're taking him right back to where they did.
Right. I see what you mean because, in order for him to go back home or to even walk, he needs something. You know what I mean? And I know
right.
that the armor is pretty badly damaged, but I think it's just going to be enough to get him home.
I'm really hoping that's what happens.
Yeah, and like you said, we've talked about this in past videos about predictions, and I'm going to agree with you. There's going to be this epic battle between the two Dylans, Eddie Brock and Venom, okay? I think there's going to be somewhat of a moment, a family moment, but I feel like that Codex is not going to be on their side quite yet. They're going to go on their way. They're going to go back to their regular Earth. Null's going to come, and somehow I feel like Codex is going to see what's going to be happening on, Earth, and he's going to help Eddie, Dylan, and possibly Anne if she goes on to the other side too.
That would be really interesting, and that would be pretty cool. If they changed him around and he actually stuck around and he ends up helping out with this storyline, even if he goes evil, if he sees Null's back and he has an influence, recruits him, and now he's part of his army. That would be really cool to see that too. There is a slight chance that he won't die at all, like you said. Something of that nature could happen. It's weird. That's the one thing that's so good about this whole storyline. Even though it is what it is, no one really knows what's going on or what's going to happen. You know what I mean? It's so hard. I think we've thought up so much stuff, and we're so wrong by what they end up doing.
Right.
It's definitely interesting to see where this is going to go.
Donny Cates is going to keep us on our toes. So why don't we talk about, and starting with you, your likes and dislikes of Venom issue number 29?
All right, well, my likes definitely were the change of artist of Luke Walsh, and that's nothing fine. It just his art kind of fits it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It fits better. So that was a nice little surprise. The storyline wasn't bad at all.
No.
The last panel itself, talking about art, the last page was pretty cool looking. That was pretty wild if you really think about it. And it's also got the potential to be a second print, third cover, or whatever. So I definitely liked the art. The story wasn't bad. I'm so used to at this point of them kind of just dragging this along a little bit and not really telling us what's going on. So I mean, I don't know. I didn't really have too much of a problem with it. The only problem I would have majorly is how quick they killed off Scorpion. They should have just made him fight a little bit. With that being said, if Mac makes it back to the virus armor and puts it on, I will totally be fine with all of that.
So based off of everything that you just said here, if you were to give this book a CGC grade, what would you give it?
I'd say I'd give it a fair 9.6.
Okay. I'm going to give this book a 9.4. And, you know, I knew at some point we were going to get an origin story of how this world became what it is today. But I felt like that I didn't really necessarily need it because I already knew how it came all together without there being an origin story, if that makes any sense. I do take Luke Ross over Juan Gideon any day. Like you said, it fits the story much better. And, you know, it just, as always, it's going to set up for the next thing. It keeps you on your toes, predicting, and that's why I'm going to give it that 9.4 grade.
You don't really need too much of an origin story because that goes back to how this Dylan and that Dylan have a lot of similarity. You just kind of already know because you've already seen that there's potential of Dylan turning this way.
Yeah.
So I feel like myself personally, like I said, I'm kind of used to it, kind of dragging along. I don't much because we already know that potentially what Dylan could turn into.
Right, gotcha. And the other thing I want to point out too for my grade is, you know, I know it is a bittersweet about the whole Matt Gargan Scorpion Venom suit, but again, it really, you know, I would have loved to see more of a fight, of course, like you said, but again, it really shows how powerful the, you know, Venom is on this hive and how powerful Dylan is as well. So it is a bit of a bittersweet, but it's really cool how these guys are working as, you know, father and son are working more and more as a team as the issues go on.
But if you also notice, when Dylan does that, it kind of like messes with him. Like he has to like gather himself after that, and it kind of makes me wonder, like when he does that, how he has his dream. He keeps hearing Noel and whatnot. Is like Noel able to like know that he's doing this type of stuff and like tap in and talk to him and whatnot? So he always seems very distressed and worn out after he does it.
I think you're absolutely correct about that. I think when he uses his powers like that, it's almost like a GPS for, or like a beacon for Null. You know what I mean? Like, oh, there he is. You know what I mean? He's right here, and he's using his powers. I definitely agree with that.
One last thing that I forgot to mention on is when Ann was talking about, you know, when she came home one day and saw Dylan doing all this crazy Null stuff, there's a panel where she reaches out to touch him, and he pretty much takes a peek to the symbiote. And then now she's standing there talking to Eddie and Dylan, and she's kind of being rude, like we were saying, and Dylan's just like, it's okay, I got your mom, but, you know, you don't have to hate me, yada yada. So she gets in bed, and she reaches out to touch him, like the same exact panel my buddy Jeb pointed out. It's the same panel. So was he able to, like, just nonchalantly like take a little piece of the Venom? Who knows? So
that's a good point. And you know what? How I interpret it is that if you go to the origin story, okay, when Anne reaches out to Dylan, the symbiote is pulling away from Dylan, even though he grabbed a piece. But when she has her hand out to our Dylan Brock, the symbiote is flowing toward him.
I didn't notice that.
So Joe, yet again, I want to thank you so much for coming on to talk about another Venom issue. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks a lot, man. It's always fun sitting here talking Venom with you.
All right, guys, so that's going to do it for today's video. Make sure you smash that like button if you haven't already, and comment some feedback in the comment section down below. And if you're new here to the channel, make sure you subscribe to show your support and for future Venom review videos. So guys, yet again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.